Welcome back to the new and improved Fourth Down Countdown podcast with your host, as always, the man smarter than the whole Cleveland franchise. It's Coach Ryan, and the guy more handsome than Tom Brady, Coach Corey. Now let's kick it off with the first down opening drive.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the newly revised Fourth Down Countdown podcast. As usual, it is Coach Corey
and Coach Ryan,
and we just want to welcome you guys back. We know we took a big sabbatical there for a little bit over the holiday season, but we had a couple technical difficulties. The computer that I use to edit and record all of our stuff took a poop on me. The entire operating system went corrupt. I lost everything. So we're finally back on it, and I thought we'd just kind of take a break. You know, we have families too, and we spent it with our families during the holiday season. But now we're back and just in time for some postseason football. But Ryan, how are you doing?
Pretty good, Corey. Happy to be back on the podcast. We hope you guys had a great holiday season, spending time with your family and friends, and hope you're ready to listen to some new content we got coming your guys' way.
Oh yeah, it's a first podcast of the new year. What a way to kick it off!
That's right.
And right now I'm gonna tell you guys a little bit about some of the changes we're doing. We first of all, we pitched the nickname of the week out the window. It was just kind of hard for us to think of stuff like that, but we might, if we ever have one that pops up in our head, we'll put it in there. But now for the first down opening drive, we'll pick up on some of the things that have happened over the last week, or just how we're doing, what football funnies have popped up in the week before, and now we have two other items to bring to you in the opening drive. Kind of put a little bit more meat on it. We will have what we call the anthem of the week, where we have a song that goes along with either a team, a player, or a situation that just kind of connected. Get some music in there, because I know a lot of music, and I have a lot of music, and I just love music. So I'm trying to incorporate two things I really like. And then Ryan, what do you have for us now?
You guys might have listened to some other podcasts or just ESPN where the analysts kind of give their fearless predictions, where they give a prediction of something that might not happen, but they go out on a limb and give it a shot and say, hey, look, I think this might happen this week. So we're going to come up with something like that. We're going to call it our bold prediction of the week. Yeah. And this might not necessarily happen every week, just kind of during the seasons when we have a bold prediction to give, or maybe in the off season if there's kind of something developing that we can give you some insight on.
Or a player signing somewhere you would never expect him to go.
Right, but mostly the bold predictions are going to be throughout the season, with the matchups and everything. But we will bring it to you in the off season as well.
And we will give you our first ones a little bit later in this first down. But I want to start off by giving Coach Ryan some condolences. He lost the fantasy championship game last night, all because of Aaron frickin' Rodgers. But we want to give a good congratulations to our buddy Brian, who took home the championship banner this year. And he came from last place last year all the way to the first place this year. So what a turnaround for that.
Started from the bottom, now he's up here. He had the best team pound for pound, and he certainly deserved it. So congratulations, Brian. You got me a little depressed, but your team certainly deserved it.
And for those who are a little bit wanting to know how I did, I finished the regular season at second to last, and in the postseason bracket I got 5th overall. So I'm okay with what I did this year. Went on an 8-game losing streak, but there's always next year, and I'll get the second overall pick, and so we'll give you some updates about our league as we go. But right now the league's over. We're gonna have our little party and celebrate, give the loser their due and the winners their due. But let's move on to one of our new things, the anthem of the week. And just to let you know, on this one, it was one we did record. We recorded what, 2-3 episodes, and they both were lost. And one was just not up to par, and then the other one was right as I was going to work on it. The computer went
Right.
and it was gone. So this one is the one that we did use for the first time that we did an anthem of the week, and it is going out to Eric Berry. And this was back when Kansas City went to Atlanta to visit the Falcons. And the song is from Ozzy Osbourne. God, I love that guy. And his song, Mama, I'm Coming Home. And it just kind of hit with me because I read a story about Mr. Berry, coming off of his cancer, fighting it and kicking its ass, as all of you should try. But Eric Berry, him going back to Atlanta, they said it was his first time going back since he had finished his chemo or whatever, his therapy to get rid of cancer. So I thought, it's his hometown, it's his home area, is Atlanta. So he was coming home for the first time really fully healthy and happy, and I guess he was happy because he took that 2-point conversion and won it for the Chiefs that week. So I think that was a pretty fitting. He came home and he showed them that he still had it. So that goes to Eric Berry. Yep. Congrats.
And he ran straight to the end zone and gave the football right to his mom, somebody who was an inspirational figure in his life and, in his battle fighting cancer. Eric Berry has always been one of the classy players around the league, and not just Chiefs fans, but fans around the NFL can attest to the kind of will that man possesses and skill, let alone. So congrats, Eric Berry, on our inaugural Anthem of the Week nomination.
Very good. Well said. All right, Ryan, it's time for your segment of the opening drive. I'll let you kick it off.
Okay, folks, we talked a little bit earlier about bold predictions. Corey and I are each going to have one when we bring this to you. But my bold prediction for this week is recently Steve Smith announced his retirement. My boldest prediction is that he comes out of retirement. He did that last year, and I believe he'll do it again this year. The Ravens didn't make the postseason. They didn't finish on the kind of year I think Steve Smith is real proud of.
He didn't go out like Ray Lewis did.
No.
On top.
No. So my boldest prediction, or fearless prediction, is that Steve Smith will come out of retirement again and hopefully give it one more year. I don't want to see Steve Smith go down on a losing season like the Ravens had this year. I'd like to see him, either retire Carolina Panther or give it another go with the Ravens. But that's mine for the week.
All right, that's very bold, or very fearless, or boldless, as you said. My fearless prediction is quite bold, and I'm gonna go and say that Mr. Manning, the good brother Peyton, will be named the next Colts GM. Okay. I just think they need to turn around, and why not give it to the guy who's probably one of the greatest quarterbacks to ever run the land. So I think Jim Irsay can pull the trigger and say, hey, Peyton, we need you. This is where you first called home. Sorry we got rid of you when you broke your neck, but you can come back and make our team great again. So I think it's way out there in left field, but that's my prediction.
Hey, that's what our fearless prediction category is all about. We don't want to give you guys something necessarily we believe 100% is going to happen, but something kind of out there that would be shocking to all the viewers.
Give you guys something to talk about besides the usual banter that other TV stations or news sources will give you. We'll give you a little something else. But with that is the first down, and I guess we're going to throw it back to Mr. Announcer Guy. Welcome back, Announcer Dude.
With more accuracy than a Facebook news post, it's time for the second down news, notes, and predictions. Right back to you, coaches.
All right, it is time for the second down. That's, of course, your news, notes, and predictions. No little changes there. We're just going to give you the best news we can and the predictions for the week. And, once we get into the postseason, we'll just probably focus on news and what we might predict will happen in the next week when it comes to, news or firings or signings and stuff like that. But we're going to kick it off a little right where Coach Ryan with his bold prediction. Yes, Steve Smith has announced his retirement, but not only him. Robert Mathis of the Colts has decided to step down. An aging Mathis, great career, coming out of the Colts system for all of his career, and I think it kind of leaves a huge hole for the Colts that they're going to have to try to fix with the free agency or a draft pick. But from there, we're going to move on to, now that the season is pretty much set, we have the top 5 draft, who gets to draft the first 5 picks. Number 1, of course, being the Cleveland Browns, which I hear Coach Ryan has some words about in the 4th down soapbox. So stay with us for that one. And, of course, the dismal San Francisco 49ers have the 2nd pick. Chicago right after them. And then we have Tennessee coming up next, but that pick comes from L.A. So Tennessee had a over 500, 9-7 record, so not that bad. And number 5, actually I missed one. Number 4 is actually the Jacksonville Jaguars, then Tennessee at number 5. So we'll see how that plays out. And I'd love to announce that the week before, or the day or two before the draft, Coach Ryan and I will have a all draft special. We will draft the first 32 picks. Each of us will have half of the league, and the other half will go back and forth with our picks. We're going to give you who we think that the team will pick. It's who we think. We're not trying to, choose exactly who they are going to pick. It's the picks that we think they should make with our all knowledge. But, we're going to take the next couple months to do all of our homework on all the promising young kids coming into the league. And we're going to give you a good, big draft special right before the draft comes up. So with that, we're going to go to our last part with Gary Kubiak, the great coach for the Texans and the Broncos lately, has decided to step down due to health concerns. So we hope he can somehow come back to football in a area where it doesn't affect his health that much. I know he missed a couple games with his health. Mm-hmm. But also we have Chip Kelly. Finally, Ryan, tell the people what happened to your favorite coach.
I predicted this one, guys. Chip Kelly, after 1 year as the 49ers head coach, he was fired as well as the GM. So I predicted that one. And another coach that was also fired was Mike McCoy, the head coach for the San Diego Chargers after 4 years there.
Or the L.A. Chargers, as they may choose. Well, they don't even know where they're going at this point.
But Mike McCoy also fired after 4 years there. Formerly, I believe he was the offensive coordinator for the Denver Broncos. And then he got that gig in San Diego. But that is also a vacancy that'll be open for hopefully a willing coach to take over that job.
All right, and that will lead us into our second time going into the hot seat or not seat. It's the end of the year. Coaches are flying out and flying in, so we're going to ask Coach Ryan what he thinks is going to happen at these six coaches, what's going to happen to them. You ready, Coach Ryan?
I'll give it a shot.
All right, we're going to start in our home state of the Indianapolis Colts, and Chuck Pagano, what do you think?
I think Pagano will end up staying. He just, if you ask probably any of his players, he just seems like, a guy that gets you motivated, a guy you want to play for. I don't think necessarily, a bad season. They haven't played real well the past couple seasons, but I think they have the right guy. I think you just have to give them, a little bit more time. They'll have, some draft picks to kind of get that team in order, and I think they need to give Chuck a couple more years. I think he's a great guy. Again, he's had his bouts with cancer and persevered through all of it. So if he can do that, I think he can, turn around a team in a couple of years.
All right, here's one that was from our original first time we shot this bit. he hasn't really improved on anything since then. So we're going to Chicago with Mr. Fox. What do you think?
John Fox needs to go, and I predicted that in our first take of the Hot or Not seat. Like you said, not much has changed. I think they need a new voice in Chicago and a new franchise quarterback, as well as a lot of skill position players. So I think Fox needs to go.
Well, if you get Chicago in our draft special, I'd love to see who you pick out would be the perfect player for him. Maybe a Deshaun Watson or our Heisman winner. But we're going to move on. We're going down to Cincinnati with Marvin Lewis. What do you think?
This is one where what I think and what will happen will be two different things. I think Marvin Lewis needs to go. He's been there for so many years, hasn't done much of anything. They won't be in the postseason this year. And then the prior 2 years, they make the wild card, and they're normally one and done. And Marvin Lewis, I don't know why they've decided to keep him so long, because the results and the achievements, everything doesn't really pan out to what they should be expecting of a head coach. So I think he needs to go. But with that said, he stayed this long, so I think hey, if it's not broke, don't fix it. But something is clearly broke when you can't get past the first round of the playoffs. So I've always said Cincinnati has the talent, to go on. Maybe it's a head coaching issue. I'm not sure.
All right, moving on to probably the most people are gonna go, hey, you should probably talk about this guy, and we're finally going to with Hugh Jackson in Cleveland.
Okay, my dad is a diehard Browns fan. Everybody knows there's been a carousel wheel of coaches, for the Cleveland Browns the past, decade or so. But Hugh Jackson, he was the offensive coordinator for the Bengals. I think he can do great things in Cleveland. I know a lot of people are laughing. Their 1-15 record. You can laugh at that. That is terrible. But I think the Browns need to give Hugh Jackson a chance. He worked with Andy Dalton, Gio Bernard, Jeremy Hill, that great system in Cincinnati that we kind of saw, suffer this year. Maybe it's because they don't have him around anymore. But I think Hugh Jackson deserves a chance. You can't just expect a guy to come into a new system and get it overnight. So I think the Browns need to keep Jackson.
All right. And the next two coaches aren't particularly on the hot seat, but there are rumors swirling that they may leave for greener pastures. Their team's not doing too well this year. We're going to start with New Orleans and Sean Payton. What do you got?
I guess the rumors around the league is Sean Payton might be interested in that LA job.
Either one now.
Well,
I guess.
either one, the Chargers or the Rams job that are open. But I see Sean Payton staying in New Orleans. The connection with him and Drew Brees is just about as good as you can get between a head coach and a quarterback. They've been together for their entire tenure. So what do I want to say? As intriguing as those head coaching vacancies may be, I think Payton stays in New Orleans.
All right, and it's time for your favorite riverboat, Ron Rivera,
Good
over in
old
Carolina.
This is one, it's kind of up in the air for me. He's done a great job with the Panthers, going to the Super Bowl last year, and I don't think you can completely blame him. It was Denver's defense that kind of took over, but this is one that again's up in the air. I think I can see him staying, but then again, there's like I said, there's some intriguing vacancies that I think he might be able to revive a couple other programs that have been struggling as of late.
And the intriguing part that I have read is he might want to go to the Rams. It's a young team. Plus, it's a huge Latino community, which he is, and he would love to probably, revitalize that area. Or hell, he could go to Chicago where he used to play.
Right. And I think his nickname says it all. If any guy's going to get up and move, it's going to be Riverboat Ron.
All right, and with that, that's our news and notes. So we're going to move on to our first set of the playoffs. We're going to predict who we think's going to move on past the wild card games and go on to the next divisional games. So I will start it off with you, Coach Ryan. We have the number 6 seed Miami Dolphins are going into the number 3 Pittsburgh Steelers. What do you think?
I'm gonna go with the Steelers on this one. I just the Steelers are playing real well when Big Ben, Antonio Brown, and Le'Veon Bell are all healthy. That's an offense clicking on all cylinders. So, as good as Miami's been these past couple weeks and that stretch they finished the season on, I have Pittsburgh in this one.
Yeah, I have Pittsburgh as well, but if Tannehill was healthy and was still be able to play the game, my prediction would have gone to Miami, but without their captain or their leader right now, Jay Ajayi can only run it so much. So I think Pittsburgh's the complete team right now. They have the quarterback. Not say anything against Matt Moore. He's done a particularly great job as a backup. But still, I think Pittsburgh's got Le'Veon Bell. It's going to be cold, and that's where he strides the most. So I think it's going to be a run game versus a run game, and I think Bell's going to pull it out for Pittsburgh.
Okay, next up we have the number 5 seed Oakland Raiders traveling to the number 4 seed Houston Texans. Who you got, Corey?
Well, it's going to be defense versus defense because neither of these teams have a great quarterback. And in one case, Oakland really doesn't have a quarterback at all. Their backup was injured, had a concussion against Kansas City.
Whoever they played with.
Who cares? Who cares? But Houston, Tom Savage has a concussion. Sorry, the Oakland quarterback has a shoulder injury. Houston, Tom Savage has a concussion, so they're back on the flush down the toilet money Osweiler. But in this game, I think it will be down to defense, and I think Oakland with Khalil Mack, Bruce Irvin, I think if they can, put on a shutout of some kind, I think Oakland can take this one home and, last one more week.
Okay. I'm going to take the Raiders as well. In my opinion, Houston is the worst team in this playoff. I think most people can agree with that. Even without Derek Carr at the helm, I think the Raiders, just the kind of season they've had, as stupid as it sounds, I think the injury to Derek Carr, kind of made them realize, they have to play for him now. He got them to this point, and they need to play well, and show him that they can. They have enough pieces there to. It won't be as easy, but they have enough pieces to, I think, get over Houston and survive another week.
All right, it's time to move to the NFC. The game we just got the seedings on from last night. Number 6, Detroit will go to the 12th man, and number 3, Seattle. Who you got?
I'm going to go with Seattle. Again, that 12th man, and Seattle, it's really hard to win with the elements. Detroit is used to playing in a closed stadium. It's Seattle's time of year. It's the postseason. They're gonna play well, and they're gonna be in the NFC Championship, if not darn near close to that.
All right. Well, I do believe that Seattle will pull this one off. I think this will probably be the closest game of the week. I think it'll be our game of the week. That I just think Detroit can. I saw, they were already down to Green Bay, but I think the fact that I saw the Hail Mary with 14 seconds left to Anquan Bolden. I think that this team, with their passing on the offensive side, they will give Seattle a little bit of run for their money. I don't see Seattle's offense doing that well, but it's Detroit's defense, which isn't the top-rated defense or that. I think this will be a really close game, but I do see Seattle pulling it off top and Matt Stafford not being able to have that fourth quarter comeback again.
Okay. Next up, we have the number 5 seed New York Giants traveling to the number 4 seed Green Bay Packers, who just clinched the NFC North last night.
All right. Yes, and I have Green Bay. I will be the first to admit I went on my soapbox about Aaron Rodgers, and after that, he said they were going to run it, and they did.
They ran the table.
They ran the table. They pulled it all off, and Aaron Rodgers is looking like Aaron Rodgers finally. The team's rolling, without their running back. They've been using Ty Montgomery, a couple other guys, but I just don't see Eli Manning being that consistent. I watched him playing against the Redskins, and he just, I don't know. There's something off this season about Eli. Sometimes he can string them together and win and go deep in the playoffs. But I think Green Bay's running on full cylinders right now, and I think they're very scary right now in the postseason.
Yep, I definitely agree. I don't think any team wants to play Green Bay right now. Corey said Aaron Rodgers is looking like Aaron Rodgers, and that couldn't be more true. I have the Packers as well.
All right, and just to let you know, the other teams that are just sitting there in the shadows,
there waiting in the wings,
waiting for their chance. We've got New England, Kansas City of all teams, and then we have on the other side Dallas and my Atlanta Falcons sitting there waiting for them. So we will see how this plays off this weekend, and then we'll come back next week and let you know who the big boys are going to get in the next round. But with that, that's the second down, Ryan. Let's move on to the third. Are you excited?
All right, let's do this. We got a special segment for you guys, and we hope you guys like it.
All right, Mr. Announcer Man, let's let them know what we're going to do in the third down.
It's time for the third down, and we're going to mix things up a bit. I'm going to let Mr. McSnooty British Pants here announce what we're doing this week for the third down. Yes, it is time for the first annual Fourth Down Countdown Awards Ceremony. Well, that was really weird. Oh well, back to you, coaches.
Yes, it's time for the third down, folks. And yes, it is a new year, but we're going to look back at the year we've just gone through. What a great year it has been. Of course, it's football. How can you not have a great time? And it's our first annual awards show. We have some categories that the big boys actually give out, but we have a couple of funny ones or not so good awards you don't want to win. But I just want to let you know a little bit of the changes that we're doing as we're revamping the show so far in our young careers as podcasters. We're not going to just stick to countdowns exclusively. I know we've been doing trivia and stuff, but we want to branch out on this third down and not, when a countdown calls for it, we'll count it down. Maybe around the Super Bowl, we'll count down the best Super Bowl games of all time, stuff like that, when it's called upon. But we want to do some different things. We will keep doing some trivia. We'll try to be more and more sneaky on each other, trying to stump one another. But we will do countdowns, trivia. We have a segment that will come up in probably a month or two that is called the Butterfly Effect. We will pick a point in time in the NFL's history, and just as a example for you guys that maybe Peyton Manning didn't break his neck. So I would give that to Ryan, or he would give me that point in time to me, and then I would go and do some research and see how the league would look if all of that had transpired.
It'll kind of be like a cause and effect, folks. Like, the butterfly effect, like Corey said, it'll be, something kind of like if this did or didn't happen, what would have came of that, and, the outcomes of certain, how it would have impacted a couple different situations.
Oh, yeah. Just there might be minor things, but there might be, like, if Peyton Manning didn't get hurt, where the hell would Andrew Luck land, and what would the league look like right now? But also, we have the big draft special coming up in a couple months. But also, since the postseason is going to be here soon, we're gonna talk to you guys about the combine, and we're gonna do a free agent tracker special. We're gonna see who the top free agents coming into free agency, and we're gonna pinpoint them on the map where we think they're gonna land. But we have some more interesting things we want to give you guys. Not just back ourselves into a corner and just do countdowns. But we're going to keep the name Fourth Down Countdown Podcast, but we're not going to be defined just by countdowns. And we're going to prove it right now with our awards ceremony. All right, Coach Ryan, I'll let you announce the first category, and we each have a champion or trophy award winner for each of these, and if we have the same one, so be it. But we have two different people for most of these awards, and I'll let Coach Ryan announce the first award and his winner for it.
Okay, folks, like Corey said, a couple of these categories are going to be, straight out of the NFL, ones that they hand out every season, and some that we just did for some fun and awards you really don't want to be mentioned with. But nonetheless, we'll start off with our first category, and that's Offensive Rookie of the Year. And for myself, it was kind of a no-brainer. I'm one of the biggest Cowboy haters, but you have to realize a talent when you see him. My Offensive Rookie of the Year goes to Ezekiel Elliott. Just for you stat people, we're gonna give a few here. He had 322 rushing attempts for 1,631 yards and 15 touchdowns. He came up about 400 yards short of Eric Dickerson's rookie rushing record for a season. And a lot of you Cowboys fans might get on my case, but Ezekiel Elliott, yes, he's a talent. The stats back it up, but without that offensive line, I don't think he's half the running back that he would be, or that he is now. It's just the truth. I mean, the Cowboys have one of the best offensive lines in football. No shade thrown at Ezekiel Elliott. He's a talent, but that offensive line is just as much to credit for his success as anyone.
All right, the deserving award, and I somewhat went a different length. I stayed with the same team, but I want to put this award onto Mr. Dak Prescott, who I don't think was getting enough praise. Everybody was looking at Ezekiel Elliott as the savior of the Dallas offense, but this kid, no one thought highly of him too much. He came in, didn't expect to do much, and then Tony Romo fell over awkwardly and missed the rest of the season damn nearly. But I have Dak Prescott, who did quite a great job putting a Dallas offense right on his shoulders and bringing them as the top seed in the NFC. That's kind of hard to do for a rookie quarterback.
If you would have said the Cowboys would be the number one seed in the NFC, or let alone in the entire NFL,
with a rookie quarterback,
I probably would have told you you're nuts. But, crazier things have happened.
And one stat that really sat out for me, he had 23 touchdowns, and that was greater than Russell Wilson, Joe Flacco, and even Andy Dalton. I think that's pretty good, elite. They had some low numbers, but you think Andy Dalton with A.J. Green and all that stuff would have higher stats, but no. And he also ended the year with only 4 interceptions. That's only 2 more than Tom Brady. But we're not going to talk about him. So I have Mr. Prescott, and you have Mr. Elliott as the Offensive Rookie of the Year. Congratulations. Golf clap. And we're going to move on to our next category, the Defensive Rookie of the Year. All right, and I will go first. My winner for this award this year goes to Mr. Eli Apple. I think he is a great player. He only had 1 interception this year because Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie stole all of them from him, but he's learning under that great man, Cromartie. It hurts to say that after he pretty much buried the Redskins' playoff hopes on that last pass. But I will give it to Mr. Apple. He is showing that he's a great kid, and he's got a lot to show the league, and he might be one of those top 3 corners coming up in the league.
All right, that's not a bad pick. I can agree with that. My Defensive Rookie of the Year is going to come out of the AFC West, a team that didn't make the playoffs, but a team that I think certainly doesn't get enough credit for, and that's the San Diego Chargers. My Defensive Rookie of the Year is going to be Joey Bosa. He ended ended the year with 41 tackles and 10.5 sacks, and
Nice.
that was after missing the first 4 games of the season. People were starting to wonder, if he was going to sign because he wanted a greater deal than he had, he initially signed for. But I think, just watching him, San Diego's needed some skill players like this, and Joey Bosa, just after his rookie season, I'm not going to. J.J. Watt is the best in the NFL, but I think give Joey Bosa a couple years, he might, he's going to be one of the top guys we're talking about. Just seeing him play, he seems like a real playmaker, and he's given that defense something they haven't had in a long time. So I'm going to go with Joey Bosa. He seems pretty deserving of this award.
Oh yeah, and he showed that he was worth that extra money he was fighting for. He put on a great season.
Okay, next up we have the Coach of the Year award. And I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to give this award to Coach Adam Gase from the Miami Dolphins. The Dolphins made the playoffs as the 6th seed, had that great run to end the year. But it's his first. It was his first year in Miami this year, and I think it's a true testament to a coach who can come in, especially to the AFC East, where the Patriots dominate year after year after year after year, and now another team other than the Patriots has at least made the playoffs. So I think that's a great compliment for Adam Gase, making the playoffs, even if they are a 6th seed. But in his first season as a head coach, I find that miraculous. So I'll give my award to Coach Adam Gase.
Congrats, Mr. Gase. And coming to my side for the Coach of the Year, I am going to, probably not much of a shocker, is Jack Del Rio. He led the Oakland Raiders to what was almost the 2nd seed, but still they got in as a wild card, and they look fantastic, ending the year at 12-4. And I think Del Rio, since he's been here, has been improving and improving. I mean, before he was there, it was a 3-13 try, and then Del Rio came in 7-9, and now they're 12-4. So they're just getting better, and I think it really helps to have a guy like Derek Carr that you can trust with your team. But I think Del Rio has turned around a team that's been pretty much dismal since they showed up in the Super Bowl a decade or so ago. So I think it's deserving to go to Mr. Del Rio.
Okay.
All right, next is our Comeback Player of the Year. Oh boy. And the only prerequisite for this award that we had was really a player that showed greatness or pretty good stats before that either got hurt or missed from other personal reasons, or they just kind of fell off the earth, went to a bad team. It happens. So with our first recipient of the Comeback Player of the Year, I have Mr. Jordy Nelson, the wide receiver from Green Bay, of course.
All right, nice pick.
Missed all of last year with I think an ACL tear, one of those knee tears. But Mr. Nelson finished his comeback year with 1,257 yards receiving and a total of 14 touchdowns. I mean, it helps to have a quarterback with like Aaron Rodgers behind you when you're coming back, but it's like he never left, So I think Mr. Nelson is quite deserving of this spot. And let's see who Coach Ryan has for this title.
I'm also going to go with a player from the NFC North, and that's the quarterback of the Minnesota Vikings, Sam Bradford. He finished the year with, which is now an NFL record throughout the history of the NFL. This year he had a 71.6 completion percentage. He ended up passing Drew Brees for that spot. Finished the season with close to 4,000 passing yards and 20 touchdowns. And I nominated Sam Bradford for this one because after Teddy Bridgewater went down, I think everybody in the Vikings organization, was kind of nervous. And, by going out and getting Sam Bradford, sure, he's not an elite quarterback like, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, one of those. But certainly a guy that came in and I think did a lot better than most people were expecting. Coming from a dismal season in Philadelphia, I give props to Sam Bradford. I hope Teddy Bridgewater can come back and, take over that starting job, but a big shout out to Sam Bradford for really having, stat-wise and just as, the Vikings season goes, very, very impressive season.
All right, let's move on.
Okay, Corey, our next category is the most disappointing player. I'm gonna let you start with this one.
All right, well, I'm going to go with somebody that looked so promising in his rookie year and then had the sophomore slump. The running back for the now LA Rams, Mr. Todd Gurley. After a great first year, you agree with that, right?
I would agree.
All right. And this year it was just dismal, ending the year with 885 rushing yards and a total of six rushing touchdowns. That whole franchise needs a shake-up. Of course, bring in a good talented coach that can pull this around, and they can be something. They have a young running back and a young quarterback, so hopefully that Mr. Gurley can turn it around. The whole franchise can turn it around because I know they're expecting big things in LA.
Of course, and my disappointing player of the year was going to be the same, but just to give you guys a little bit of a shake-up, something different. We really wanted to be different on most of these if we could. So my most disappointing player was, like Corey referenced earlier, you might as well flush all your money down the toilet on Mr. Brock Osweiler. Signed to this past offseason a $72 million deal with $37 million guaranteed in the first 2 years of that contract, and
Buyer's remorse.
I don't think Houston could have made a more poor decision on, a player to lead their franchise into the next couple years. I was watching game on NFL Red Zone a couple weeks ago where they benched Brock Osweiler and brought in Tom Savage, and boy, those Houston Texans fans, they let the NFL know that they they were about as happy as they could be seeing Brock Osweiler head to the bench. So, again, we'll see if Tom Savage can stay healthy and be able to go up against the Raiders in the playoffs. But if not, the Texans fans, I'm sorry, your shit quarterback is about to.
And John Elway's laughing the whole time.
I will be the first to admit I thought it was a bad idea. I thought the quarterback being under the tutelage of Peyton Manning, letting him go was a big mistake, but I don't think anybody's laughing more than John Elway right now. So my disappointing player goes to Brock Osweiler. Congratulations, you piece of shit.
All right, let's move on to a more bittersweet kind of award, going to the most shocking moment of the year so far, of the regular season and so far. Ryan, who wins your shocker of the year?
Well, again, this is one that could either be, triumphant or, in my case, a solemn event, and that was Derek Carr breaking his fibula and going on IR. This was a player that, I'm not even a Raiders fan, but you have to just, root for the guy and the team that hasn't seen much success. He was, a true MVP candidate. He completed almost 65% of his passes, also threw for almost 400 yards, and threw for 28 touchdowns. And
400 yards?
4,000. Did I say 400?
400.
I'm sorry. I apologize. 4,000. But certainly, with Derek Carr at the helm, I think the Raiders, I'll be the first. I will say this with, what do I want to say? I'm going to be as confident saying this as I possibly can. With Derek Carr at the helm, I think the Raiders would have been in the Super Bowl. Okay. But with, unfortunately with that happening, I think they'll get past Houston, but the next round is, a little iffy. But Derek Carr, again, my solemn candidate for this shocker of the year.
All right. Mine goes a little on the same track, but a little bit earlier in the year that kind of set things in motion. Teddy Bridgewater's unfortunate accident. I just thought that He was a great kid. I remember him getting drafted and saying, "This kid's got promise. He can do it." And him getting hurt so badly that players were sick on the field and crying. Apparently it was so gruesome that they just couldn't handle it too well. Now that Sam Bradford's back, I just give that to Mr. Bridgewater. Hopefully he can accept it and come back and have a good career. So we hope you are getting better, Mr. Teddy Bridgewater.
All right, and to brighten things up a little bit, our next category is Breakout Player of the Year. Corey and I, kind of came up with this category and wanted to really give it to a player that's deserving, who, kind of had a dismal last season, but then this year kind of really turned it around and, help their team, prosper as best they could. And my candidate goes to Matt Stafford, the quarterback of the Lions. He not finished, but during the regular season, he had a 65.3% completion percentage, threw for close to 4,500 yards, and 24 touchdowns, leading his Detroit Lions to the number 6 seed in the playoffs.
All without Megatron.
All without Megatron, and I thought without Megatron, I thought the Lions might have, been close to that 0-16 season, but they finished 9-7, and Matthew Stafford has, in my opinion, doesn't get enough credit where credit is due. That man has more, fourth quarter comeback wins than, he's probably right up there with some of the other quarterbacks in the league, but certainly a great young quarterback who has showed tremendous poise and, leading his team to the playoffs.
All right, and my breakout credentials were the fact that a player that, kind of did okay and hasn't really been too surprising, that finally bloomed into a great player. And the award this year for me goes to Mr. Tevin Coleman of the Atlanta Falcons. Mr. Coleman ended his year with 520 receiving yards and 8 touchdowns in that way, and 421 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns, to a grand total of 941 all-purpose yards and 11 touchdowns. And with a guy like Devontae Freeman, who they thought would be, who was pretty much one of the great running backs this year, but, that Coleman turned into that guy that could, get the receiving rusher and, and share some of the load. I mean, since Matt Ryan threw to so many guys, but I think Mr. Coleman kind of finally bloomed, a product of the IU Hoosier program here in Indiana. And with that, I think we'll move into our second to last category. These two guys who are winning this award are very, very worthy of it, and is our boob of the year. This goes to the most the most, I don't know, bumbleheaded, just can't get their head out of their butt kind of players or coaches or staff. There was plenty of worthy candidates this year, but Ryan, who won this award for you?
All right, my winner of the Boob of the Year award goes to the former coach of the LA Rams, and that's Jeff Fisher. There's a couple incidents that really made not only Corey and I, but NFL fans kind of, is Jeff Fisher okay? Who let him out of the nursing home? Type of moments. First up, when the Rams were playing the Patriots probably 3 or 4 weeks ago, Jeff Fisher in his pregame talk with the media was so worried about Danny Woodhead and how they're going to game plan for such a versatile player. There's just one problem with that, Jeff. The Danny Woodhead has actually been gone from the Patriots for probably 3 or 4 years, and he's actually on the IR for the San Diego Chargers.
So not only he's not playing for this team, he's not playing in the league this year for injury reasons.
Oh, so poor Jeff. Somebody let him out of the nursing home and out onto the sidelines. The second incident came a couple weeks later. I forget who they were playing, but Jeff Fisher wanted to challenge a play and he couldn't find the challenge flag. He had quite the the hefty coat on with so many pockets.
I think that was the game against the Patriots.
It might have been the same incident. But he had to verbally tell the referee he wanted to challenge the play, and then minutes later,
he finally
actually found his challenge flag. So Jeff Fisher, I think rightfully, the season the Rams had, the two kind of, get your head out of your butt moments. I think Jeff Fisher's my, very deserving of my boob of the year.
And not to steal your thunder or anything, but I think they should share a little bit of the blame. The actual higher-ups of the Rams, the fact that they gave him an extension and about 1 or 2 weeks later fired him. So Jeff Fisher had so many people running around. So I guess, the Rams stopped the Titans when he was the coach. So Jeff Fisher just decided he was going to stop the franchise. All right, moving on to my boob of the year goes to the man of infamy. He got a college in trouble. USC was only known pretty much for dating a big butt whore and Kim Kardashian, and now he has a record all to himself. Mr. Reggie Bush ended the year.
Who does he play with, Corey?
The Buffalo Bills.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I wasn't gonna name that just to save your. But back to Mr. Booby Bush. He ended the year the only running back in NFL history to end the season with negative yardage gained. That's an oxymoron in itself, but -3 yards he ended the year. The only running back to ever do that. Originally, I had someone else, so I had Capper Neal, but he's so worthless, no one wants to talk about him anymore.
Yeah, Kaepernick's so worthless, he doesn't even deserve an award that makes fun of you. So.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to go to Reggie Bush, the first ever running back to not gain any yards.
Thanks, buddy. I appreciate that. As if my Bills not making the postseason was tragic enough, he has to poke fun at.
Yeah.
Good old Reggie.
All right. Well, that team needs a lot of change, and we'll talk about that in the offseason and all that good stuff. But we're going to move on to the one award that everybody gives out every year, and it's time for the most valuable player. And I'll let Ryan announce who we actually agreed on this, but we have a little bit of a condition to get our MVP award. You have to play all 16 games this year. So Derek Carr and Tom Brady were out of the running because fuck Tom Brady in the ass. But also we just had to think of a guy, not just stat wise. It's not all I'd think about stat wise. It's most valuable player. The player that if they weren't there to be for their team, then that team would probably be as bad as the Browns. They don't have an MVP. I mean, Joe Thomas is a fantastic person and all that, but, with all the other things, he's not an MVP. He's the MVP of their team. But,
yes, I would agree.
Yes. But we looked at the stats. We looked at who was the most valuable player this year. And, Ryan, who is our first ever fourth down countdown MVP?
All right, folks, this year's fourth down countdown MVP goes to none other than the good old Matty Ice, Matt Ryan.
Woo!
And Corey's being a little fangirl over here. Of course, that's his main man from the Falcons. But I'll let Corey give you some quick rundowns on some of the stats, some of the really things that set him up as our prime candidate for this award.
Of course. We start off with the record for the Atlanta Falcons, him leading his team to an 11-5 record, the first in the NFC South, and the second overall seed in the whole NFC. He averaged 309 yards a game. Dear God, that was second in the league only to New Orleans' Drew Brees, who is always putting up numbers like that. But this is the first year Matt Ryan's up there in the top 3 in all passing categories. He had a 69.9% completion rating and ended the year about almost 56 yards less than 5,000 yards for the whole year. 38 touchdowns and only 7 interceptions. Dear Lord. And with all that, he averaged 9.26 yards per attempt. That's about a first down per attempt.
Yep.
That's pretty damn good. And the one thing that a lot of people probably didn't understand, every time he passed, it was probably to someone different. And he had 13 different players catch a touchdown from him this year. That's probably near a record of some kind. So I think deservingly that Matt Ryan deserves our first ever MVP. He threw up a game, gave Julio Jones a 300 receiving yard game against, who was that? The Saints?
It was against the Panthers because they released cornerback Benet Ben Wickery after that game.
Yeah,
I just like saying that name, by the way.
Matt Ryan and Julio Jones made a kid lose his job because of their daunting passing game. That's pretty good too.
And
not for him.
And with this MVP, I want to give a big shout out to the Falcons organization. Julio Jones was really the only receiver they ever talked about, and Mohamed Sanu not so much coming over from the Bengals this year, but a big free agent signing in Taylor Gabriel, who came from the Browns. You can see just how going to a contender can change your career.
Who was actually the leading touchdown receiver for Matt Ryan with 5 or 6? 5.
I think it was 6, and Julio had 5. So not even Julio Jones was the leading touchdown.
That should tell you just that in itself, that Julio Jones is not your top touchdown receiver, that you've got options.
Yeah, the depth of the Atlanta Falcons at wide receiver, running back, tight end, it's kind of reminds me of the Patriots. They have a lot of depth at those skill positions, and it's always that next man up mentality. So
if they don't have a guy going, they'll go find a guy that can go.
Yep, not only to Matty Ice, but the whole Atlanta Falcons. Just a tremendous season, and I wish them nothing but the best in their playoff hopes.
All right, well, that will cap off our first annual Fourth Down Countdown Awards ceremony, and we congratulate all the good players, and we point our fingers in shame at the ones that didn't do too well this year, and hopefully they can all come back and, in Reggie Bush's case, at least gain 3 yards next year for some team. But with that, we are going to move on to the fourth down, and I do believe it's time for Coach Ryan's first soapbox rant. All right, Mr. Announcer Man, let's do the plugs and get into it.
Why, yes, that was a pleasant awards ceremony. All right, buddy, you done your job. Now it's time for me to do mine. Remember to follow us at Fourth Down Podcast on Twitter, and find us on Facebook at Fourth Down Countdown Podcast. And of course, subscribe to us here on YouTube. Now we're going to the fourth down to shut things down. Back to you, coaches.
All right, folks, and that brings in the fourth down. We hope you guys enjoyed the award ceremony. If you guys think that someone else was deserving of one of those awards, let us know in the comments or on Twitter or on Facebook. Of course, we're always watching and listening to feedback. But right now, in the fourth down, we're going to give Coach Ryan a soapbox to stand on and speak his mind as most as he wants. I'm not going to even interrupt. But I think Coach Ryan has some harsh words for the Cleveland Browns franchise. So, Coach, go at it.
All right. Well, can we say anybody's really surprised that the Cleveland Browns are the topic of my soapbox this for this inaugural 2017 podcast? I was watching the Browns game. And, I was rooting for them to really get their second win of the season. But then I got to thinking, they were playing the Pittsburgh Steelers. They ended up losing to the second string of the Pittsburgh Steelers. They gave it everything they had. They couldn't even manage to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I was, like I said, at one point I was rooting for them. But then I got to questioning, after a 1-15 season, up until, this game, why in the blue hell are you trying to win another game? Are you trying to get the second pick in the NFL draft? But knowing the Cleveland Browns, it really doesn't matter. They have the first round pick. They'll probably trade it away, and because the Browns don't think there's anything wrong with what they're doing. I mean, they've wasted how many first round picks on quarterbacks that haven't panned out. So really, I was rooting for the Browns. Being my dad's diehard team. He's been a Browns fan since he was a kid. I was really rooting for him. You can't help but feel bad. But then I got to thinking, Are you really trying to win another game and not get this first round pick? I mean, it's what you guys have done best for the past, 2 or 3 years, being in the top 3 or 4 for first round picks. So I think the Cleveland Browns are deserving for this inaugural soapbox of mine, and I don't know what else to tell you guys. I think it was just, I appreciate them trying to win another game, but if you're the owner and everything, why not just kneel down like you had the whole season and just take that first round pick? Anything else you want to say, Corey?
Well, yeah, I thought it was kind of weird that they were struggling against the grounds crew of the Pittsburgh Steelers. So also, I have to mention they have the first round pick now, and they will probably fuck that up too, like they do with every other pick, because God knows we need another Brady Quinn or another Johnny Manziel in goddamn Cleveland.
Oh, would now be the time to talk about who, the nickname that we always talk about?
Oh yeah.
Would it be a great time to tell the viewers about this man?
Yeah, it's your soapbox. Why don't you tell the story?
All right. Well, it now seems like as good of a time as ever. A couple of years ago, I went to Cleveland to.
Sad.
Yeah, my dad's a Browns fan, so either he got the tickets or I did, so we could go down and watch him. But that was where Brian Hoyer was leading the team, doing a pretty good job, probably the best in recent memory. But good old Brian Hoyer got hurt, so in trots this 34-year-old rookie named Brandon Weeden.
You might have heard of him.
Yeah, you might have heard of him. I mean, he's nothing special. I mean, the clamor from the fan base when they drafted him. Why in the hell would you draft a 34-year-old rookie for your quarterback, or, for a quarterback? But, the Browns are the best team at wasting, picks they have. But that's not even the funny part about this. I was at the game. Brian Hoyer got hurt, and the Cleveland Browns fans, even though their team is terrible, they know their players, they know what they're capable of. Well, out comes Brandon Weeden onto the field, and one of the fans yells behind me, "Oh, in comes fucktard!" So in comes a 34-year-old rookie to save the Browns. I think they were playing the Bills, but that's. Typical Browns fans, like they love their team and everything, but they know just how terrible they are, and he yelled as loud as he could, "Well, here comes fucktard!" So I found that a perfect moment to go along with my rant of the week, to throw that in for you guys.
All right. Well, with that is our first episode of this new year, and we hope you guys are going to enjoy the new stuff we're bringing to you guys in a more consistent manner, and we hope to see you guys next week. So watch some football and listen to some podcasts, and have a good week.
We'll see you guys. Thanks for listening.